Plan to add Soil-Biotics organic products to your 2023 crop program. Organic 1R seed treatment is a standalone seed treatment that is compatible with most other organic seed treatments and may be applied up to 5 months prior to use. It is formulated to improve the early stages of plant life, reducing insect and disease pressure. Soil Boost is raw humate product that is broadcast applied pre-plant to help improve soil structure, maintain nutrient availability, and stimulate microbial activity. Soil-Biotics PHK is a dry granular product using a proprietary carrier blended with humates. It enhances the uptake of nutrients, increases water holding capacity, and enhances soil biological structure. PHK may be broadcast, used in furrow, or banded. Soil-Biotics organic products are formulated to work together to provide a continuous, beneficial growth environment. For product details, contact information, visit soilbiotics.com. This episode of Back to the Roots podcast is brought to you by Byron Seeds. The folks at Byron Seeds believe organic requires a different perspective, plan, and approach. Organic isn't simply a different type of product or even a different way of farming. It's a different way of thinking, planning, commitment. It's a different philosophy on how to feed the world. Many won't understand, but the people at Byron Seeds do. We're owned by organic dairy farmers. We not only have the product, but we plan, manage, and execute organic. We speak your language, we share your struggles, and we laud your successes. Organic isn't a way of doing business, it's a community. We learn from each other. We're in this together. We'd be glad to talk cropping plans, management systems, the road to profitability. We understand what you're trying to do. We're farmers just like you. Visit us at byronseeds.net or give us a call at 800-801-3596. And thanks to Byron Seeds.
Listening to Back to the Roots podcast. I'm Mike Klein, and along with Brian Wood, we are in Eugene, Oregon at Nancy's Yogurt, and we have Sue Kesey, who is the co-founder and co-owner, along with her husband Chuck, of Springfield Creamery, also known as Nancy's Yogurt, and now Nancy's Probiotic Food. Also sitting in is Cheryl Kesey-Thompson, who is a second-generation co-owner and VP of Marketing. So thank you so much, you two, for sitting down and being willing to share the story of Springfield Creamery and Nancy. So, Sue, could you just give us a little bit of a background about how this all got started and start from scratch, I guess?
Okay, yeah, starting from scratch. Well, we can blame my husband or maybe my father-in-law for why we're here. Chuck was raised in a creamery, basically. His father was a creamery manager, and he'd grown up with creameries all his life. And he attended Oregon State University and majored in dairy technology. That's where we met, was at Oregon State. And so we had the opportunity upon graduation to start a small creamery in Springfield, which is the town just across the river from here. And it was probably the best kind of nepotism that it was through his Chuck's father that we were able to set up this little bottling plant and make do custom bottling, which would be today considered co-packing probably, but in 1960-61 it was just custom bottling, and we just bottled milk in 1 gallon glass bottles, which were having a comeback in 1960-61. That's what the stores and the customers seemed to want to go, which would have been considered going back to glass. because in the in the 50s, this is really going back, after the war, all the creameries modernized and went into paper containers, the first of the Tetra Pak type containers, and kind of shooed away the glass, which had been the package of choice. And but the consumer was still in love with our glass bottles and still wanted that. So we were offered the opportunity to just run this little processing plant, which had been a creamery in Springfield, and the building was empty. So we got set up there just to package gallon glass bottles of milk, and we sold them to other creameries who were the distributors who did it. So we were a co-packer, I guess, at that point in time, and that's what we did for a while. And then we also did bid on the Springfield School District milk business for the schools, and that was a great contract to have, because you just did 10,000 little half pints of milk 5 days a week during the school year, and it was a wonderful opportunity for my husband's cousins who were attending the University of Oregon and needed some extra jobs or extra money, and the delivery of this school milk happened between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. in the morning, perfect for going to the university, because your classes, they just arranged classes not before 10, and they were our delivery guys. So, those were the two things that we did to start off with, which were really not necessarily retail stuff, and certainly not yogurt at that point. It was all just milk. And so that was our start into running our own creamery. And and yogurt was not in the picture yet. This was 1961, and but while this was successful in that 10-year period up to the end of the 60s, it was we weren't really doing what Chuck really wanted to do, which was to do cultured products. He really wanted to do. He loved the idea of bacteria creating a new product. In other words, taking milk and creating yogurt, or sour cream, or cream cheese, or kefir. And so that's what we evolved into. That was our goal. And it took us almost 10 years to get there to be able to do that. But it was when the market was ready. In the late 60s, first of the 70s was kind of the start of the natural food movement, and where the new generation of folks were looking for new foods to eat and natural foods to eat. This was really before organic was a word that was, and really available even. And we worked to create Chuck at Oregon State, where Chuck went to school. His microbiology professor, who was a wonderful man, just encouraged him a lot to do cultured products, do yogurt.
So there was no cultured products available at that time, or was there some yogurt?
There was some. There was Yummy yogurt. That was about it. And actually, Altadena Dairy down in L.A., I believe, had a yogurt that they were making. But this was a long time ago. This was in the late part of the 60s. There really wasn't very much yogurt, and there certainly wasn't any natural. Altadena was probably as close as it came at that point. And so the opportunity presented itself because of the change in the desires of the consumer. And this was the movement toward natural, and it really happened it's on the West Coast, or Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and then you go to maybe to Boulder, Colorado, Austin, Texas, in the Midwest a bit, and probably, and then on the East Coast some. But it was a slow start, you know. It took a while for this natural food movement to catch on, and then it was in the 70s, well, a little later than that, really, that organic then became part of the conversation. So, and then, you know, everything took off from there, and it's where we are, where we are now. But it was interesting, and it was interesting being on that first ride, you know, where being one of the first brands or yogurts into this new burgeoning natural food world, and being a part of helping to make the distribution system work. You know, if it hadn't been for Michael Funk, I'm not sure how long it would have taken. I mean, Michael Funk is Mountain People's Warehouse, is United Natural Foods. Okay, he was the distributor. He was the trucker, and he said, you know, as long as you can fill your truck, you can make it work. You know, so his goal was to find enough people that were making products that they wanted to move to somewhere else, and he would be the conduit to get it there. And he believed that as long as he could fill his truck, it would all work. Financially, it would work, you know. And he never underestimate the part that the role that he played in making this whole distribution system work. So that's kind of where we all started from. And there, Eugene had a number of small businesses that were making new natural foods, and so Eugene was kind of a natural food manufacturing center, and there were a lot of great people here in town that were very creative in making great foods. Toby's Pâtés, Serrata Soy Foods, Golden Temple Natural Foods, Glory Bee Honey. All of these businesses started about the same time, in the late 60s.
So on the yogurt side, then, you kept the creamery, the bottling part going, and started dabbling in yogurt?
Yeah, we started. Yes, we kept milk going, and we were doing home delivery of some and supplying the university and so forth. But yogurt was what Chuck wanted to do, and so that's what we started working on in the late 60s. And that's when Nancy came to work for us too, as my bookkeeper, and she was a huge part in putting together or working with Chuck on getting this product put together and getting it distributed or delivered to the stores around town that we were delivering to. And it just gradually grew from there as the distribution networks expanded too. And so we kind of had a dual role there for a while, and pretty soon we were only doing yogurt, and that would have been starting in 1970 probably.
Okay.
And with yogurt, you said that was his passion, was, you know, turning a raw product into something different.
Yeah, right.
Was there also a tie with health benefits, or was
Well, yeah, because Chuck believed that the cultures in the yogurt were beneficial to you. And at that point in time, the first culture the first additional culture we added to our yogurt was Acidophilus, which was probably the only probiotic. It wasn't even called probiotic then. Beneficial bacteria that was available. And over the years, of course, over these 50, 60 years, there's been a number of great cultures perfected and that are used in yogurt to increase the health benefits and so forth. So yeah, that was the fascinating part about yogurt, is that these cultures were so good for you that yogurt was definitely a beneficial product to be eating for your own health.
Yep. How did the brand name come about?
Well, Nancy. It was Nancy came to work for us. There was no pre-planning on this one. She was answering the phone in the office, and one of our customers here in town called an order in, and she said, "Well, I want you to bring me some of that Nancy's yogurt." And Nancy, who had answered the phone, said, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but it's not a name." She said, "Well, that's what it should be." And so anyway, that's kind of how it evolved. There was no pre-planning on that part. It was Nancy's yogurt.
Nancy would answer the phone, and it was Springfield Creamery. "This is Nancy."
Yeah.
And so that's where that very organically.
Yeah.
That was the hook.
Yeah, that was the hook. So, and Nancy has been a wonderful namesake for this product all these years. She worked for us for 45 years before she retired. And at any point in time, I can call her on the phone and say, "Hey, you want to talk? Would you talk to this customer who wants to know a little bit more about yogurt or various things?" You know, she's just so dedicated and so involved, and was a wonderful beacon of education for customers.
Prior to that, was it being marketed or under a Springfield Creamery name, or
it kind of didn't have? Not really. I think it became Nancy's pretty quickly.
Okay.
We were doing. The local stores knew that we were doing yogurt, and we did provide that. Actually, did we provide it in glass jars?
It was glass jars.
Glass jars, yeah. Yeah. And but by the time we actually had distribution that was beyond our local delivery here in town, we had moved to plastic packaging, actually. And so it became Nancy's once it started leaving our area. It did have a name. Yeah.
You know, and the exception with that first launch of that first yogurt in 1970, and still what we do today, is that probiotic culture difference. And we believe we were the first company in the U.S. to add live probiotics, that Acidophilus that Sue mentioned, in our yogurt. And that was they were adding live probiotic cultures, beneficial bacteria, in Europe, but not in the U.S. And that was my dad's passion, and still is. That's what he wants to discuss all the time with anyone who will listen, the benefits of that bacteria. And so that was definitely on the ground floor.
And did you start with just the plain, or did you start with flavored and then branch from there?
We pretty much started with plain, but we did vanilla
and honey.
And yeah. Well, it was Nancy's honey yogurt, and that was plain. But did we do vanilla honey? Honey vanilla? I don't remember that part. I don't know. I can't remember that. But it was plain, and we basically, plain yogurt is kind of what we do. We don't do a lot of flavors in little cups, little single serves. We did some fruit on the bottoms, strawberry, raspberry, blueberry, the standard Northwest fruits, and we also did a 2-part package, which was because we didn't want to add stabilizers to or anything that was not just the true ingredient to our yogurt. We found that we could not mix the fruit and the yogurt together without adding a stabilizer or another type of thickener to make it, to have that product end up tasting and looking like it should. And in the early 70s, those options of what kind of a stabilizer to use were not very appealing to someone who was attempting to make a clean product, a natural product, because they were not natural items. They were pretty well, I don't want to say they were chemical, but they definitely had additives that we didn't think was what we wanted. So what we did for quite a while was we did a separate fruit cup. And I don't even know if we have a picture of our fruit on top yogurt. We would put the fruit in a little 2.5, 3 ounce cup, and then you had your yogurt in an 8 ounce, and they'd sit together, one on top of the other, and then we'd
no, it was worse than that in the beginning.
In the beginning, it was
it was a little skinny piece of masking tape.
Yeah.
And that was actually my job in middle school, to earn school clothes money, is that we would tape it down just so that it could make it like across town without falling off. So obviously it didn't ship very far out of its own little neighborhood. But yeah, it was that skinny masking tape in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then we did a shrink wrap with it.
Yeah, and then we shrink wrapped them.
And you could actually get to like Boulder with the shrink wrap.
Before they fell over or something. But, so we kept them separate for those reasons, that we didn't find a appropriate stabilizer or ingredient that we could put in there that would keep the fruit and the yogurt from having a really funky interface with each other and kind of curdling. That's not what we wanted. Eventually we overcame these as other ingredients became more acceptable. But we did fruit on the top yogurt for a long time with the separate cup for a lot of years. I mean, I would guess well over 10 years or so.
Oh, as a separate cup? Yeah, I mean, we kept the line, and we redesigned a cup that was a nice fitment that fit on there well.
So then you would lift the cup and dump the fruit in?
Yeah, then you'd pour the fruit in because
it was the best yogurt ever. Everybody
loved it because everybody wants to make their own product, their own mix, their own, put your fruit in the bowl and your yogurt and a little fruit on top, maybe a little granola today with that, and there you are, you got a breakfast. And so people love doing their own mix. So that's what we did, and ultimately, as the decades have gone by, we are probably known as a plain yogurt company. I mean, we sell plain yogurt, and we sell larger sizes. We sell quarts and half gallons. Much more volume in those sizes than we do in single serves. But it's all seemed to work. We've niched that is our niche there.
And I want to go back to those early days, and what was the dairy industry like in this area, and were you focusing on where your milk was coming from? And were you picking specific farms or that kind of thing to get the product you were looking for?
In the early days, that was probably not really a consideration when we were doing just bottling in glass jugs and doing school milk and stuff. There weren't a lot of choices. Most of the milk here, all the farmers here in this region were members of the Eugene Farmers Creamery Cooperative, and which my husband's father managed, and until the late 60s. And that was pretty much the milk that was available. There was not a consideration of looking for specific farmers at that point in time. We were pretty much locked into what was available because it was all it was pretty much controlled by the co-op. The organic milk in this region became available in the mid-90s. There's an interesting story. If this could be a sideline, you could probably cut it out if you'd like.
Oh no, please tell stories.
Was that in 1994, we had a fire here at this building, and devastating. We had actually started our business started in Springfield, and we moved over here in 1986, which was a huge step because it gave us a much nicer facility for being able to load trucks and do a bunch of stuff. So anyway, this was a great investment, this property. and then we had this fire, and pretty much brought things to a halt there for a while. And it was the same weekend almost, or the next weekend, that George Seaman was coming to visit here to talk about this organic milk pool he was putting together for here in the Northwest, and were we interested? And of which, of course, we said, yes, we were. And the fire was on a Sunday night, and George came to visit the following Saturday. And I met him here, and he knew about the fire. He said, well, is this still all right? I said, oh, sure. Come along. I'll show you what we've got left, and I'll show you what we're going to do. And if you knew George, we hit it off immediately. And so when he arrived, of course, what he was seeing was this pretty bad-looking sight. But we walked around some. I just said, we're not stopping here. We're moving ahead. We'll make this all work. And yes, we want to do organic milk or organic yogurt. We want your organic milk when it's ready. And this may have been a year before there really was milk. There was milk from the gentleman up by Mount Adams, one of the first producers.
Troutdale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And but there weren't a lot of them. So anyway, we had George and my husband spent hours over dinner talking about creameries and co-ops and milk and so forth. It was great. So that's where that was our first meeting with Organic Valley, and we, have been locked together ever since. That's the only, or OV is the only place we've ever purchased organic milk through, and completely happy with our relationship, and now that McMinnville is back running, the cream is a little easier going back to Mac now, but there's a lot of good things about a symbiotic relationship that goes both directions,
So when you started using organic milk, did you take all the products organic, or do you do some? You have a conventional line and an organic line.
We have both.
Okay.
Yeah, we run conventional milk still, and we run more organic than conventional, but we do have both. And so that's that's one of the challenges. You've got to plan your processing so that there's no crossover, or you finish with conventional, whatever you want to do. But because organic is larger volume than conventional is now, it's actually a little bit easier than it was before.
Okay.
But we still have a fairly good sized conventional line.
So I want to step back and ask about the concert. Like, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the concert. Like, can you like give us a little bit of background and what that all entailed?
Well, I assume you're talking about 72, and we were basically broke. That's what it was. Scraping along. We had just really started the yogurt side of our business first in 1970-ish, and so we just didn't have very much money to grow that business and launch this yogurt product and so forth, and pay the bills we had. So somebody said, well, we'd just ask the Grateful Dead to do a benefit concert. And we said, really? And they said, well, sure, there's no reason we can't. We can ask them. Why not? And we knew the Grateful Dead through my husband's brother, Ken Kesey. And so, I don't know, Chuck and a couple other folks either flew or drove down to Marin County and met with them. And we knew, while we didn't know the band members themselves quite as well, of course Ken knew them, but we didn't, but we knew some of their road crew, who were people that were from Oregon that we knew. And so the introduction was pretty easy, and they threw out the idea of them coming up and doing a concert up here. And they looked at their calendar and said, well, we've got an open weekend here in about 6 weeks. And we said, oh, that sounds great. And then, so we had this commitment, and then we'd never done anything like this and had to figure out how to do a concert outdoors for heaven knows how many people in that length of time, build a stage, do all this and that. So that was, but when you're young and you think you can do everything, so it did work. One of the only flaws was we faced the stage to the west, and so by late afternoon on that sunny day that was probably close to 100 degrees,
110.
We had the sun right in the band's face there, but other than that, it was pretty successful, and we pulled it off through. Like Chuck said, he says, I'd never even really been to an outdoor concert. This was pretty early on in outdoor concert stuff, And but we did it. We ended up with some money left over, and I think the Grateful Dead padded our money a little bit. I don't think they took their full cut, if I remember the accounting somewhat. Worked with that was an interesting, they just wanted to be sure we came out with enough money and we didn't lose money doing this. But it was a great event, and it was all filmed. And that became the movie Sunshine Daydream, which is available. I mean, you can buy the
Sunshine Daydream?
Sunshine Daydream. Yep.
My brother and I joke that our parents went from yogurt makers to concert promoters in 28 days.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And with full naivete as to what they were doing.
That's
but-
why it worked.
Exactly,
yeah,
You didn't
exactly
know.
why
Exactly.
it worked.
If you knew it all, you'd say, this is not possible to do this. What are we thinking of? But what the
But
heck?
did that generate enough money for you to, like it was enough to really help you along?
Yeah, it did. It got over the hump we were at that point. And yeah, it did. It did. It covered what we needed and allowed us to move forward. And it was a growing, the demand for our product was growing. And that was part of the issue, is that, if you're short of cash and you are growing, you never have enough money to actually make that work. And so somewhere you need an infusion of something. And there were no, what do you call them,
Venture
guys.
capital.
Venture capitalists hanging out.
Thank goodness there wasn't a venture capital around, because they would have ended up owning
They
Nancy's.
would have done
Some people go to venture capitalists, some people go to the Grateful Dead.
That's right. What the heck, Grateful Dead sounded more fun. So, anyway, that was kind of the gist of that and why that happened.
And a big fork in the road for the creamery.
Yeah,
That
it
was that was a make or break, and so that made a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, and then we did another concert in '82, and then we did 2 different. Was it 2 years, or just 1 year? We did the Holt Center. We did 3 nights at the new Performing Arts Center in Eugene, which was a new facility in the early '80s, and those were sweet, wonderful concerts because the acoustics in that building are so good, and it's a 2,500 seat arena venue, so just nice size, and people were so thrilled to have that, and that was really fun. And we were supposed to do a concert in '92, and it was basically sold out, and I mean instantaneously. It was going to be on the same site in Veneta, which is the Oregon Country Fair's site, and then Jerry got sick, and they canceled it. And which was really kind of devastating to us because we were looking forward to it. But in hindsight, when we realized how many people were planning on coming and how kind of unprepared we probably were to handle a 30,000 person crowd, I'm not sure it didn't work out for the best, and Jerry did get well there for a while, and we had him for a bit longer. But it would have been a spectacular thing too. So we've had some good adventures with our concert stuff, and then evolving from that, Cheryl's brother, our son Kit, has done concerts promotion since that time, as he became a young adult and thought this was a greatly wonderful idea. And so he still is doing concerts promotions. He owns the McDonald Theater downtown in Eugene, which does things, and then he operates under the city of Eugene, the outdoor amphitheater here in town, and has for 10, 12 years, something like that, and does summertime events.
And has his creamery boots on during the day. So.
Yeah, and he
So that's
wears
just
creamery
like
boots.
a side hustle.
His side hustle. Some days it takes over the front, and this becomes the side. It depends on what's going on, whether this is the side or this is the hustle,
So Cheryl, when did you step in? You were putting tape on the fruit cups, so you've been here your whole life. But when did this kind of become your like more active role?
Yeah, no, you're correct. I mean, my brother Kit and I have been. This is what we did. We grew up as creamery kids, and we're in the creamery. We spent more time, I think, at the creamery than we did at home. And so, yeah, I mean, as we were growing up, there was always, selling ice cream bars out of the back of a truck, or there was always some side hustle like that. None of us moved very far from home. We didn't go away and go to college. We stayed here and went to college. Grew our families here. And so, yeah, I went off and taught for 25 years, and always had one foot in the creamery and one foot doing that and raising a family. And so I've been back here full time for, I don't know, 20 almost years. And it all just evolves, and where the gaps are and where the needs are, and luckily I have 3 sons to help pick up the slack, and we definitely should have had more siblings to pick up slack.
Yeah, could have more kids.
Didn't have time to have more
That's
kids.
right.
They were busy building
She was
the
a concert promoter. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. And Kit has been here always. I mean, he went to the university, but he ended up back here and has been here his entire adult life. Yeah.
And is the business, like, you keep growing and growing and expanding?
Yeah, and the answer to that is yes, which isn't a simple answer. Yeah, we do that strategically now. I mean, you're careful about how you grow, and you look at areas in the country. We're definitely a well-known Pacific Northwest, West Coast brand, and that's where the majority of our business is. It's harder to move into different regions where you don't have that brand awareness, and you're looking like a new product on the shelf there in the Northeast or something. But we do have national distribution with some of our product lines, and so you can find us in all 50 states, and we distributed into Canada for a long time as well. And so now we are growing, and I think that growth definitely helps feed more growth and more projects, and we're diversifying as well. There's the branded side to what we're doing, and there's some co-pack sides and there's some bulk, and I think that during COVID we found that definitely one of the advantages that we had is that we were in charge of our own manufacturing, and there's a lot of brands that were at the mercy of a co-manufacturer who was having trouble with be it staffing or procurement or whatever that freight, and we worked hard to foresee those issues and take care of those before they became big issues. Sue kept saying, "How many containers did you guys just order this week?" And we were cautious. We were ordering for out of necessity, because you didn't know how that supply chain was going to work out. But yeah, I mean, growth is good. We choose not to grow just to grow. We choose to grow to where it makes sense to grow.
I think the one thing that, if you want to look at the whole COVID thing as a positive, is it really showed vulnerabilities in your business. And it showed where your strengths are and where your strengths were and what needs to be shored up. So if something like this were to happen again, that you can keep that supply chain. Like, I think the American consumer became more aware of the word supply chain
I agree.
Right.
through COVID than the supply chain didn't mean anything to
No,
most people
no.
until, oh, well, they can't get it because one piece of the puzzle along the chain didn't work and everything stops.
Right.
But I just think it's so cool how the family is still involved here. You're doing your own processing. This is like when we just listening to you makes me aware of like how many things had to fall in place, but they didn't just fall in place because of it didn't just happen. Like the effort and the time and the dedication that it took for, was it 62 years?
63.
63 years of putting this together. I think it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
So.
It's been a ride.
And I did want to ask, over those, 50 years of making yogurt, you talked a little bit about the different bacterias going in, and that's changed over the years. What else have you seen in the yogurt business change over those 50 years?
Well, that's interesting. We've remained, one of the things that hasn't changed is that we've remained really faithful and dedicated to our initial mission, which was to provide this completely natural product, and natural was the word at the beginning, to our customers. And we weren't going to water it down, funk it up, do anything. We were only going to continue to improve it if we could. We would never cheapen it. We would never have it become mainstream, so to speak. It would be this dedicated product that we said we were going to make, and we've continued to do that. And I think that's knowing that mission and knowing that what you're doing is making something that's so good for the people, so good for you, so good for your belly, is a worthy mission to have. And we've held on to that, and as we've expanded our line with other products, it has continued to, we've continued with that as the ultimate goal, and then being able to enhance our quality of our ingredients by adding an entire organic option to everything is also really one of the exciting things we've been able to do. And having this great organic and grass-fed organic milk. My favorite at the moment is grass-fed, of which I'm out at home. I got to remember to take some home. Yes, it's on my list.
You might have some connections where
That's
you
right.
could get some.
Yeah, I think I can get some. And so, it's it feels like things have just nicely fallen into place, and but it's been we've, I think, been lucky in some of the directions and the decisions we've made, but it's also the demand of the consumer is more sophisticated in what they want to eat and what they're choosing, and as long as you stay loyal to your mission and your brand gives people what they're expecting over and over and over again, I think you'll have a dedicated consumer base. And those are the folks that we, that we are into third and fourth generation people say, oh, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. The longer we do this, the farther it goes. And it's very, very satisfying to know that you're able to make a product that is so helpful and healthy for folks, and that they still like it after all these years, even though we haven't done a lot. We haven't done a lot to change it or tweak it. We've just continued to offer the the improvements as they come along.
Well, and to me, it sounds like doing exactly that and having your mission and staying true to it. One of the things that I've seen over the years is that the yogurt case continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise in that case.
Yeah.
And so having your mission keeps people coming back to you.
Yeah.
That's almost like the rock, because there's always new little tweaks that people are doing and flavors and
The latest and the greatest, and all of a sudden they're here today and gone tomorrow. So, and the change from Nancy's yogurt to Nancy's probiotic food, is that a shift? Are you looking at expanding the probiotic line, or is it just kind of an evolution of where the business is?
That would think that you would imply that we were being very strategic, and we weren't. So we did some rebranding about in 2016, updated packaging, and yeah, I mean, it's true. All of our packaging was, Nancy's cottage cheese or Nancy's, vanilla yogurt, but definitely known as Nancy's yogurt. And so, as we looked at it, what was our common thread was that we put probiotics in everything. That's where our roots started, and that is the top of our mission still today. And we've evolved with the probiotic market as new strains become available. We add new strains because they're good for people, and that adds to our cost of goods. But it's important that somebody has that Rhamnosus LGG, and it has great research behind it, and so we put it in our kefir. And so as we were rebranding and looking at packaging, that became a good way to communicate what we really do and who we are. And so that's where it became Nancy's Probiotic Foods. And whether we are thinking that we're going to be making another probiotic food beyond what we currently do, that seems like a lot. There's no plans for that right now.
But everything that you make has probiotics
Absolutely.
in it.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that really still hits our mission about, why my dad was passionate about, making that first yogurt in 1970. So we, and that's fulfilling, that the fact that you're feeding somebody a food that it impacts their health. Our products are used as protocol in a lot of hospitals across the country, and so if you're in a hospital, here in Eugene or maybe in the Midwest, and you're on an antibiotic, your protocol might be you're going to have 4 ounces of Nancy's yogurt or 4 ounces of Nancy's kefir on your tray in the morning and 4 ounces at night, and to help with that gut health. And they're using it in ICU units in some hospitals. So it's fulfilling to know that you are making that really important food for people's healing and supporting their good health.
And I think you've kind of obviously in your industry business, seeing the trend of probiotics is, certainly I don't want to say a buzzword, but it's certainly gained more traction. And I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg of understanding what that does to our bodies.
Right.
So, it's awesome that you're doing continued research to make sure that that's available.
Well, this has been an absolute honor and a pleasure to sit down with you and to hear this story firsthand. So thank you.
And I
for the
got to
time.
ask, are you doing any concerts soon?
I don't see a concert in the future exactly, but we are with Kit's business side hustle. We do get a lot of music, and so it's coming through. But I don't see another concert on the horizon quite. Even though everybody would have loved to have had a 50-year reunion for the 72 concert. But yeah, it was, we don't have one planned, but who knows what might pop up. I don't know. I'm just along for the ride now.
Well, thank you, both of you, so much
Thank
for
you.
taking the time. This was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you.